what we're building is more powerful with the two of us than either one of us individual. And so we made sacrifices to make that work.
We very early into this recognize our differences and differences in personality, the way to approach things. And I think we were blessed to very soon into this realize we are very different. And we pick at each other from time to time for our differences. But deep down, we know that's what makes us stronger. We complement each other.
Hey, welcome to 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. We're a father-son leadership podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. And we solved the problem of tyranny of distance today for the co-hosts. We do not need technology for Camden and I to be on the call, because it's like real person. Do not adjust your dials, folks. This is real. Look, not an AI. I'm touching him. I'm actually touching him.
I don't know, it's tyrannical, but I was going to say, I'm not so sure about that, but that airport on the way here, that's some tyranny.
Yeah. Well, anytime you give up full and utter control and trust to a dude in a blue suit, with a black tie, usually, and a white shirt with some bars on the epaulets. That's a, we do it without thinking about it, but you know what? When you start thinking about it, it's like, damn.
I thought about it a lot because that was my daughter's first trip, first time on an airplane. So I thought a lot about how much I was trusting that sucker up front.
Yeah, leap of faith for sure.
I myself got a wife, which is funny. She loves planes as a machine. Mm-hmm. She will watch shows and she'll, know airplane models, all that stuff. But the minute I tell her that I am traveling, she's going to be looking at the weather apps 2 weeks in advance.
2 weeks.
Say, do you know that by that time? I'm like, 2 weeks in advance? Really? And she's terrified of flying. Terrified.
Oh,
and yeah, I actually
her fear by studying the planes. That's what she's doing.
That's exactly. Apparently, that it is. He's just trying to control the fear by learning more and more. She actually follows this guy. It's a Brazilian YouTube channel. It's a great guy. He was a mechanical for lifelong mechanical for United and Continental then, and then United, and he talked about accidents all the time. Mm-hmm. He dissects the accidents. He dissects what happened, what went wrong, and normally the conclusion is this was a human error. It wasn't going back to you, Cam. It was the dude in that suit. It wasn't the machine. It wasn't anything else. That's the general conclusion normally.
It all comes back to people, doesn't it?
Right, it does.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of people, testing my segue-ness in this to go from flying airplanes and airplane crashes to our good friends joining us and business partners, Rafael and Brandon. And we're always about the team and working together and things like this. So what I'd love to just give us how the hell did you become partners? I mean, was it stumbled into the guys sitting next to each other in an airplane? Maybe I don't know. How'd that happen?
Your turn, Brandon.
Yeah, I was about to say since I'm representing the sweater, I think it makes sense for me to jump into this. And I'll kind of, I guess, touch back on how I got involved with the group that introduced Rafa and myself. So I ran a family business for about 10 years, and that was my identity, right? I knew that I was always going to be in that business. I knew that was going to be my future. It was a part of me, right? It was my grandfather's business, and I grew up living with my grandparents. And so, I was very close with them. And so when I ended up, jumping into the business and was leading it, I never imagined myself without that identity. And then, one thing led to another, and I ended up having to resign from the business. I walked away. And it was a big piece of me being left behind. And so I didn't know what to do. And I reached out to a mentor, and he said, "You should try F3." And I was like, what is that? And he's like, "Don't worry about it. Just show up." This was a Sunday when I was talking to him, and he said, "Go to f3nation.com, find a location that's close to you, and just go." And so, like I said, Sunday night I looked. Monday morning there was a location at 5:30 in the morning that was about 5 minutes from my house. So I showed up. Didn't know anybody there. Didn't know what it was other than what was on the website. It was a workout group.
Trusting the airplane, you had some pretty good
for sure
there, didn't you?
Well, I definitely, and there's been many cases in my life where just blindly doing something has been what I needed. And this was one of those things, right? Now I just lost my entire identity and was, kind of, I don't know what to do. And then, this advice was given to me. So I was like, all right, let's try it. And so I showed up. It was a workout group. It's for men. It's outdoors. It's free. It ends in a circle of trust. There's 5 core principles. It was actually started by some military individuals in South Carolina, I think is what it was.
I think it's North
Carolina.
North
in 2000. East Coast. I'm in Texas, and so it's a ways away from me, right? But it was exactly what I needed in life. Right then, they usually meet 6 days a week, different locations, kind of all around there. And so I went head first into this now because I didn't have a job, right? I just resigned from my job. And so I was like, you know what, 5:30 in the morning, it's before everybody wakes up anyway. So I'm going to start doing this. For the last 10 years, I had been focusing on growing the business and I wasn't focusing on my mental health, physical health, nothing. And so I went head first into it. I was going 6 days a week. I was leaning into so F3 stands for Fitness, Fellowship, and Faith. And faith is the loose term of you need to understand that there's a higher power. You need to believe in a higher power. And so the fellowship aspect of it was exactly what I needed in my life. And about 6 months into that, there was a networking group that was meeting outside of the workout regiment, and we were doing an AI. Somebody who was an AI expert that was in F3 was giving an AI talk, right? And so that's when I met Rafa. Rafa was there. He had gotten through F3 with a completely different end, right? I had started a consulting business by this time. I had a client that needed a valuation done. And, I was just speaking it out into the world that, hey, I'm looking for somebody who does valuations. It's a very rare need, right? And Rafa's like, hey, we should talk later. And then one thing led to another. So we met each other in end of June of 2024. By July, we'd started our business. So
I'll be precise. So, yeah. It was the 4th of July. I was with my family in Florida. We took the week to go to Disney and stuff. And I got a call from this guy. Well, back to that conversation we had at the meeting. I need an evaluation. And can you do it? Yeah, absolutely. So I did it. And we delivered it together to the client. And the client himself looked at us and said, you guys should be doing this together. This is powerful. Operations and finance, this is like, you don't see that every day. And we just decided, okay, let's try to take this plane out of the ground with no radar and no instruments and no nothing.
Just don't tell your wife that you did that,
right? Right.
You'll be surprised. She supported it. She's like a big, both of them.
Plane analogies, just not him being on planes.
There you go. Okay.
Right.
Right. I would love to dive into a little bit of how y'all started building the partnership and building that trust. Because I think there's all sorts of different versions of this, whether it's, you meet the guy at the bar, we talk about like the cocktail napkin ideas and those kind of things, and they don't go well. That doesn't last very long. Usually it kind of falls out, call it the honeymoon phase or whatever, but that doesn't usually last that long. We're here, into 2025, y'all still working together as far as we know. So things are going well. Yeah. How did you guys start to build that trust? What do you think that key was?
Separate sites now, as you can see.
Yes. So, and it's funny because this topic came up to this week or last week, that the big part of our success is, I think, twofold. One, we had very difficult conversations very early on. We were very honest about what both of us wanted out of a partnership. We were very honest about, going through scenarios that what if this happened? What if that happened? And so, two guys, right? We had very, very, very little revenue at the time, building a 50-page operating agreement. And it was because we were going through those scenarios, right? Even before the scenarios materialized. And I think the second big part of what I would attribute to the success of us working together is that both of us sacrificed. Both of us made very clear sacrifices for the greater good. And we were, very transparent that, hey, I'm going to give this up, but I truly believe in what we're building. And I believe that what we're building is more powerful with the two of us than either one of us individual. And so we made sacrifices to make that work.
Yeah. We very early into this recognize our differences and differences in personality, the way to approach things. And I think we were blessed to very soon into this realize, we are very different. And we pick at each other from time to time for our differences, but deep down we know that's what makes us stronger. We complement each other. So just this morning we were having a meeting with someone, and Brandon is the best guy with follow-ups that I know of. He'll follow up, give him something to follow up, he'll follow up forever. I'm the type, I guess like a normal individual, 2-3 times into it, I'm going to drop the bone and move on to the next thing, like my puppy would. But Brandon won't. And that's great, right? At the same time, I'm financial discipline all the way, to irritating levels for Brandon at times. But we get along. We decide, okay, you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing. And sometimes when there's some rough edges there, we get talking. But back to that, and it's real, it's a 50-page operating agreement. We were like, it's not about the agreement. It was about that conversation. I don't remember, but it probably took us between 4 and 5 hours to go over there. I remember we had a couple sessions. We had to stop at some point. It was becoming very heavy conversation, very tough conversation. We were like, we got to do this because we did one thing that we would never advise a client to do. This is 50-50. So I know that's a mistake, but honestly at the time, that was the only possible solution for the situation we had, where this gentleman had a business and some revenue already going. So he had leads and he had a pipeline. I was coming with expertise and giving away other things, other possibilities of pursuing corporate careers and stuff like that. So we're like, okay, let's make this 50-50. Guess what? The next month, I hit some revenue myself. And I was already sharing 50-50. Then next month, remember, Brandon, there was this thing, there was a business opportunity kind of that became business that honestly I could go and say, you know what, Brandon, this is pre-existing. You shouldn't be here. But I said, 50-50 is in the business. Let's do it. So we just took that plunge, took that leap of faith, and had very, very tough conversations to, square things out. Because, you're absolutely right. That napkin idea wouldn't survive at the first tough, rough spot, which we've been through.
There's an interesting piece there, and I'm sorry, I keep going back to like the marriage thing. I said the honeymoon phase, but really, to take that example, it is what if we sit down on date 1 and plan out our entire lives, the romance is gone. That's what people would say. If we sit down and hammer out a 50-page operating agreement, I might be tired of you by the end of this. I might not want to do this anymore. That could take out the romance of the business partnership, I guess.
Yeah.
What's y'all's perspective on that? Because it sounds like it was, if anything, it was the opposite, which I think a lot of people would find kind of counterintuitive.
I'm going to lay that up to Brandon, and I know he'll do it beautifully when I say we try to practice what we preach all the time, and I don't feel like we would could present ourselves as value advisors and exit planners and all that without doing such a thing, because that's step one in the book. Check out the background of the business, operating agreements, anything that is pre-existing. Do you agree, Brandon?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And then also, I think it relies back to our deep experience in business, right? Both of us have very storied backgrounds. Both of us are very confident in our strengths, but we also know what our weaknesses are. And I'm always a big fan of being very open about what your weaknesses are and finding people who can close those gaps, because collectively you can do more than what you can do individually. So understanding that it's a motivation for making things work. Right. And so, and being very blunt whenever things aren't going the way that it's much better to get things out in the open than it is to hold and harbor them. Right. And so, Rafa and I have had very open conversations very early on. And I think that keeps the momentum going, that whenever you start getting the wins and you can start stacking on the wins, it starts to build excitement. And all of those negative ideas, right? You don't try to harbor them or hide them, but you now are starting to replace them with all the positives and the wins and those type of things, right?
And I would go back to practicing what you preach, because there's one of those tiny bits that stuck, right? There's this day I'm walking in the living room, talk to my wife, and I go, yeah, our IT guy, this and that. And then she goes, IT guy? You were two guys who started this just like a few weeks ago. What are you talking about, an IT guy? Yeah, we already have an outsourced IT people that we hired. We're not wasting our time figuring out what's going on with the camera or Windows or whatever. You hiring people?
Today.
Like, yeah, we're hiring people because we practice what we preach. If we're going to grow this, we got to outsource stuff that is not the core business. It's not what we do, that kind of type of deal, right? And then, I don't know, a few weeks pass by, the marketing person. And then they go, marketing person? Now there's a marketing person? What's going on? I mean, you're not even get paid yourself in full what your goal is. Yeah, I'm not. But we reinvest. So we're true believers in practicing what we preach. That's, there's no other way.
Because so many, and a lot of the guys I grew up around in my life and in business were all about, we don't need an operating agreement, or, we trust each other and all that sort of stuff. Where was that lesson learned that, hey, dude, even though we trusted each other, let's write this down?
Experience.
Brandon smiling really big. I'm going to guess the family business is what I'm going to guess.
Who hurt you, Brandon?
Yeah, experience.
It's one of his acquisitions. It's a best example, Brandon. The one that you did, the one with the partnership.
Yeah. So there's a lot of experience, but to your point, right? I'll get into one of our acquisitions. So in March of 2023, we closed on a competitor to our family business. And so they were up in Connecticut. I heard that they were, having some hard times and they were going to be closing the doors. And so bought a plane ticket, flew up there, went and said, I showed up with some donuts and my business card and said, hey, I would love to talk to you. And what happened was, so the business was started in 1965, right? And it was started with a couple. It started in the garage. They grew the business, the whole American dream, right? A very successful business. They didn't have competitors at the time, and so they owned the market really well. Then over time, competitors start to creep in, business starts to slump. They never really planned what that future looked like, right? And so fast forward COVID, 2020. So at this point, it's a partnership between the original couple. They own 50%, and then the inside salesperson owns the other 50%. So the couple, COVID 2020, first one passes away. Then in 2022, the second one passed away. And so that's 50% of the ownership. That goes to the daughter. Daughter had been in business for a few years, but had been wanting more ownership. Wanted not ownership as an equity, ownership as in responsibility. Wanted more to do. Wanted to be trained. All of those things, and basically was told, I don't want to relinquish, the clients that we have, the information, all of the things, right? And then when the surviving parent passed away, then all of a sudden you're struggling, right? Now you when you had the ability to train, you didn't, and now the person who's trying to pick up the pieces is just trying to not only grieve but also figure out how to run the business. And so it became this real big constant battle between the other 50% and the surviving family member.
That could be not resolved, but managed. If a wise operating agreement was in place, they would recognize that that's a possibility. And yeah, we might get along today, me and you, but I don't know if my daughter is going to be the one dealing with you. And I don't know if you're dealing with my daughter is going to work the same way we deal with,
Right.
We've seen like 30% partner in the business. The guy, they can block anything. Now, fast forward 10 years, one of the owners wants to do a transaction and it's being blocked. And they're not in the same place where they were back then. The operating agreement, I'm not an attorney, by the way, but I mean, we know enough to know that that's the piece of paper that should be managing and dealing with those scenarios, guiding at least, establishing the guardrails for how you deal with scenarios like this.
In your opinion on that, because that came to mind earlier, talking about the operation agreement, because it sounds like this for y'all, that you go through like that 50 pages. Is it that you need that to reference those different pages and say, hey, we got to go to page 42? Or is it more one of those things kind of like when we talk about planning, where it's like the planning process helps you more than going back to the actual plan? What's your thoughts on that?
To that point, the 50-page operating agreement isn't even signed, right? It was the development of the 50-page operating agreement.
Brandon, you're hanging us out here dry.
What Brendan meant to say was,
it's with an attorney, and the attorney still has it, right? But the point is, it was development, right? It was the having the conversations, having the questions, having the scenarios. Understanding where my mindset is, where Rafa's mindset is, all of that is the real true value. And so to your point, right, is it to be able to reference back at a certain page? No, it's not. It's about having those understandings of where our two motivations are, what drives our decision making, and then having that document ready for, if something were to happen to us, we both know what the other would want, right?
I have a tidbit that tells that how that goes. So one of our and guys, this is something very unique, which another thing. Operating agreements are very unique in their whoever wrote them individual situations. So ours says no family in business. Period. We're not. I'm not being partners with, and I love Brendan's wife, but I'm not going to be partners with her as long as Brendan doesn't want to have a crazy, afraid of flying Brazilian as a partner. So we wrote that there, right? Now, fast forward a few months, And for me, it was one of my very first business wins, or when I kind of had one of those moments, I got paused and said, oh, apparently this is being successful in ways that I cannot comprehend right now. So I'm driving my car with my family, and for whatever reason, the business comes up, and we're talking, and I have a 12-year-old who's that kid's going to change the world, going to be a super capitalist, super laser focused. I mean, I could go as any dad for hours here, but he goes, Dad, business seems to be doing very well for at the very beginning. Can I join it sometime? Can I, learn what you guys do and be there? I'm like, nope, you're not. Like, what? No family. He goes, Dad, but it's me. I'm like, yep. The operating agreement says that. Sorry, pal, it's not me. It's the operating agreement. I mean, it's there. No family. You got to change it. You got to talk to Brandon, and guess what? He won't change it. So sorry, pal. You got to do something else. I can teach you everything I know. You're gonna have to do it somewhere else.
And he's gonna take you.
But
down.
We're not heartless.
We got. He's gonna take you down. You said he's super capitalist. You're starting his evil. He's gonna be a super villain. Come on.
Well, and we're not heartless, right? We have our individual LLCs that own TD Pine. His son can go work for his individual LLC all he would like, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I told him that. I remember the conversation progressed to that. I said, yeah, you can be my employee, but not TD Pine's employee.
What's the lesson learned from the 50-50? Because I've heard that before. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Yeah, even split.
Yeah.
I'll let you go.
So 50-50 was something that really put a glass ceiling on my family's business. My grandfather was betrayed by a partner. It was a really ugly situation, quarter bankruptcy. I mean, the whole 9 yards. And then that's when he started the second business in 1980. And that single event, created the no outsider mindset, right? They're not going to bring in any consultants. They're not going to bring in any outside, salespeople. They're not bringing any out. You basically had to be a family member or an individual contributor that is bought in, right? That's pretty much your and frankly, so I got an engineering degree, MBA, did my whole thing out my own experience. I knew that I couldn't join the family business without bringing some kind of value to it, right? And so I joined, and I quickly learned that there are people that are outside of our family that have great things that they can bring to this, great ideas. And so that singular event, though, in the past created just a brick wall that had to be torn down before you could finally, open it up to these ideas, right? And I think that is a good example of anything in life, right? If you're hiring somebody and you don't get the right hire, the solution isn't to stop hiring. The solution is to ask better questions. The solution is to figure out what was wrong with the process and keep trying and get better, right? And so to your point on 50-50, there's that camp that it's not the right thing. And we agree. We would recommend every aspect that somebody needs to be 51 and somebody needs to be 49, because ultimately you're going to have one decision maker. And just because of where we were in starting our business, we needed to kind of go a different path. And that's why we spent the time making that long operating agreement, because we knew that we were getting into something that created more risk than it did, in the short term. So.
You talk about the need for the 51 with that to be the decision maker. One of the other things that I'm thinking with that is that if it's 50-50, or really by not having a true dedicated decision maker, then it becomes that game of both of us are half making it, and so no one's actually taking charge. Is that what you're talking about? Like it's well, I don't need to do that. We're 50-50. That Otis should be doing that. Otis in there. Oh, Cam should be doing that. And is that the kind of behavior you're talking about?
No, that's not exactly where I was going with. But my thought is there needs to be somebody who's going to say this is the direction that we're going, and then putting us in that direction. I think that is where this relationship with Rafa is great. Is that we bounce ideas off of each other, and then we collectively say this is where we're going to go because we agree on the benefits.
And that might mean that sometimes some decisions are going to take probably slightly longer than they would if it's an individual, because there's going to be debate, right? However, and this is not just in our specific 50-50 situation, I see that a lot in big corporations all the time. Once a decision is being made, you follow through, you go with it. It's and I know, Otis, I know your background, so you know what I'm talking about. Once an order has been given, this is the decision that we did, this is the path we're going, we just go. Even and if that was my idea or my original recommended pathway or Brandon's, it doesn't matter. As soon as we say we're doing this, we're doing that's the only way, because otherwise we will create an effect, Cam. 0.5% of the business are going to be, it's not really my decision and I'm not really going to play with it. And there's been times that those have come from me, and there's been times that those have come from Brandon, and we've been fortunate thus far. We've been following that way of doing things. Brandon?
And yeah, Cam, to your point about, who's going to take ownership of something and who's going to make sure that something is, look, like I said, both of us have really storied experience. We know that indecision or not taking ownership isn't going to get us where we're going, right? And so because we both collectively have already sacrificed, we're very motivated to get us both to where we are trying to go. And so, not taking ownership or diverting something to somebody else is anti what we're trying, what we're about. Now, with that being said, Rafa's skill set is very, focused, and my skill set is a different, right? And so we can break things up and to say, hey, you're better equipped to doing this. Do you agree? Yes or no? And then, something might be up for debate, but we're very clear on what he is great at and what I'm great at, and we focus on what our strengths are.
There's a great story that highlights that, guys. If I can if you can bear with me for a moment. So this one time at the very beginning of the business, I knew someone in Brazil who owned a coffee business, and they wanted us. They hired me, or wanted to hire me to do some work, but they were in dire straits financially. And we were like, okay, how do we pay? I pretty much know because I know your numbers, right? And they go, and the idea was vented out that we could be paid in kind, and kind meaning coffee. Mm-hmm. And I just called Brandon and said, Brandon, I know you like coffee a lot. We drink a lot of coffee every time. So it's like in Brazilian coffee, it's top-notch quality, like a gourmet type. How you think about it? And 24 hours pass, and Brandon goes in this turmoil during the weekend saying, we're going to have our own coffee brand, Rafa. We're going to start selling coffee and doing coffee. And next time he's like, the guy goes like full speed and he's creating Starbucks. And I'm like, man, you can see my financial side, what this guy is doing. Anyway, fast forwarding a little bit, we realized that for that to work, we need to import like a ton of coffee. And we're like,
literally, it was like 600 kilograms
to make it feasible, financially feasible. Mm-hmm. And then we go, oh, that's not going to work. I don't have that big of a garage. So that idea just fell through. However, this is Brandon. He kept following through and following up with his idea. And he then started writing for ghost roasters out there, guys that would white label coffee. Mm-hmm. And he kept getting ghosted by those salespeople. And we were having coffee, coincidentally, in a coffee shop after a meeting. We do a lot of coffee shop meetings. And Brendan is pretty much bitching and moaning about being ghosted by these roasters, right? Mm-hmm. Guess what? The guy sitting the next table is like, you want to buy coffee? Sorry, I overheard. Yeah, I sell coffee. I white label coffee, and they happen to be good quality coffee. So Brennan got into a deal, and instead of a ton, we could be talking about, digestible order sizes for our budgets. And that was Value Climb was born. So we created our own coffee brand. We sell it to finance events for small business owners, the types that wouldn't be able to pay us, and raise the funds to do so. And guess what? People don't like to buy coffee that much, not as we do. So oftentimes we use the coffee to be a good leading to great conversations with a lot of people. We just send them our coffee. By the way, guys, you're getting don't get to be surprised if you get some coffee beans in a few days, because that's what we do. We became dubbed around the area here in DFW as the coffee guys.
Yeah.
And you can see that decision-making process and the whole. There was a point there when back to a ton of coffee. Where was Brandon? No, this is not happening. I'm your finance guy. I'm telling you, this is not happening. And then we've gone through all the cycle to make this one. Now it's a fun, neat story, but obviously it doesn't tell you all the ups and downs of the decision-making. But yeah, it turned out to be something that we are proud of.
What I was going to ask on this is, in more the communication side of things, when y'all are working with clients, how do you get somebody to be the 49? So if we're coming in 50-50, and then now it's, all right, well, Cam, you're going to be the 49, Otis is the 51, or what does that look like? Because, yeah, they need to have the trust as partners, and there's pieces of that, but that just seems like a hell of a conversation to try to have. Walk us through that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I believe we've done a good job of not knowing exactly not to step on each other's toes. And this is, I mean, in our case, I don't know in y'all's case, but in our case, I'm the finance guy. I have my lane, and Brandon has his. Doesn't mean that sometimes I won't chip in some leadership or operating idea, because actually that's what I'm here for, bounce ideas and have a chat when Brandon needs it. Just not long ago in a client where he's doing great leadership work, he needed a hand. I came up, I chipped in an idea, we're developing and working on that idea. So I will defer to Brandon when I know it's with his realm, and vice versa. But by now we know enough of each other that, yeah, I know that Rafa might have something to chip in here, or I know that Brandon might have something to chip in here. So just this week I was consulting with Brandon on a matter that was ultimately financial. But I said, you know what, let me listen to you here, because I'm in doubt. I'm not sure what to do, type deal. I don't know if that answers, but that's how we have been handling it.
Yeah, and I think that's what our true value is it's the two of us, right? And so it really doesn't matter what the ownership split is. Whenever we're helping a client, TD Pine Advisors is helping the client, right? And the client is getting the value from both of us through those interactions, right? And let's say that I'm engaging with the client and they've never met Rafa for whatever reason. But as soon as we start understanding that, hey, we need to come up with a budget, we need to figure out what your investments are going to be, it's going to be bringing Rafa into this, right? And I think that is our true value to working with clients, is that we look at the whole picture, and we try to help the client understand, where they're trying to go. And then work backwards, saying, okay, if this is where you're trying to go, these are the milestones that we need to hit to get there. And part of it's going to be finance, part of it's going to be business development operations, part of it's going to be, maybe we're bringing in somebody else from outside the team. But ultimately, how we work with a client doesn't matter what the ownership structure is.
We were at some point helping a client get ready for diligence on an M&A deal. So we were pretty much prepping the data room, because this particular client had no bandwidth, and with his team, he had no CFO to do that, or team or finance team, right? As we were working through the numbers, preparing just a very cursory document for this data room, we realized that the asset turnover on the inventory wasn't right. Something is off here. We start pulling that thread. I remember that at a very early stage, because Brandon understands that much better than I do, I just brought him in. Hey, can you help me think this through? And then he started asking questions that I would by no means ask, and started looking into things that I wouldn't look. All it had was the financial acumen to say, this is weird, and we got to figure out why, but I don't know why. Now, we started working. one thing led to another. Fast forwarding that story became, okay, Brennan is helping the client set some form of a outlet channel, and Brennan is helping this client understand there is a slow moving inventory that although it doesn't get stale, costs him in terms of carrying that inventory. And one thing leads to another, right? And now we are here, December 16. That client is now running a budget for next year. And as they're running the budget, they're like, okay, inventory is a key thing that we have to address, and it's coming from them. Mm-hmm. You have no idea how happy and excited and how my finance heart beats inside my chest when I hear something like that. I'm like, absolutely great. That's value add right there that business wouldn't do with all that. And it all started back then with both of us in one office looking at one number. So
I'd love to hear, now that you two are geographically separated, how you're making up for the coffees, the water cooler talk is the way I like to refer to it. What's your process to keep those really tight conversations going when you're doing the bullshitting, but then the business comes out, sort of thing, and it goes back to bullshitting and then business. How are y'all doing that?
Yeah, it's a great question. We make sure that we carve out time. Pretty much we talk to each other before lunch and after lunch. I mean, we talk to each other multiple times a day. And a lot of it is about business. A lot of it's not about business. But we also carve out time to have face-to-face. That it's very important. Thankfully, we do live close to each other, and so it's not a real stretch. If either one of us got relocated for whatever reason, I think that we would make sure that we still did the same thing. We find time to be face to face, and then make sure that even if it's a Zoom call, we're still having conversations where we're reading each other's body languages and understanding what the other person's thinking.
And the reality, Otis, is that not long ago we still had a physical office, but which I guess answers your question. As soon as we started this, we said we need a physical space because we were two guys that barely knew each other. So we got an office. It was, you would think, probably not the best use of money to expense very early in the business, but we did rent a place, and we make a point of work as much as we could in person. That got us that water cooler talk going, and camaraderie and all those things. Now down the road, for reasons I won't go into much detail, but the place, the shared space we used to rent went out of business, and a couple months ago actually, we resorted to going back to our own home offices. What we do is, okay, there's a face-to-face client meeting tomorrow at 1 p.m. Let's meet for lunch before. We've been doing it. And yeah, there's been often times where I pick up, Brandon, something going on, I can sense you're off, which is something that you can only do if you really know the person. And he done the same with me countless times. So yeah, we've been able to strike a good balance there.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and really helps remind me how important it is that it's the human connection. We're still human. It's a great thing that it'll be my foot stomper that I learned or reminded of today, because I'll call him out, Mark Manson. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Great book, but you know what? I think he went too far in his counseling and consulting, and is relying on an AI tool to do that. And you know what, folks? It may replace some tasks, but it doesn't replace the people in your team. So I think that's a great reminder of it right there, like you described it, Rafael. Camden, how about you? What'd you learn?
For me, I would say it's the importance of building in time for bullshitting. And what I mean by that is we've had this conversation with folks, talking about like meditation and things where it's, you want to block out all those thoughts. You can really focus. But one of the things we've learned from folks like that is there's also importance of letting your mind chase those rabbits and letting that happen, because then it's easier to focus when you need to focus. And I think building in time to bullshit with your partner and to have those kind of conversations makes it a lot easier to have a really focused actual meeting when you need to. So it's important to build in that time to bullshit sometimes.
How about you,
Yes.
Brandon? What'd you learn, man?
Well, I hadn't heard of the book, The Art of Not Giving a Fuck. So that is something that I'm going to look into, because even if we don't agree with everything that's in a book, there's probably still nuggets that we can take away.
Oh yeah.
So
he wrote the book before he did the AI thing. So
I got you.
He's mad at his pivot is more than anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got you.
Otis, I actually read the book, and I read the sequel to the book, which, as if any sequel, wasn't absolutely good. The original book was a good deal. But I know nothing about what happened next, so can you please educate me on that? I want to learn that. I haven't learned yet the new thing. I want to learn now. I haven't heard what happened to Mark Manson afterwards.
I just signed up for his weekly email.
Okay.
And it was just a handful of weeks ago. I'm reading one of his emails, and he's talking about, how he didn't like this AI counseling, and people shouldn't be using AI or talking to AI like it's a person. And then he transitions into, that's why I created my own AI that is done for, and I'm like, unsubscribe. Boom. And
that's how it goes. We see other people making these mistakes and go, gosh, I'm just so much smarter. I won't do that. I could fly close to the sun. I won't burn. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Right.
Yeah.
Icarus.
I learned that. I haven't learned that on that guy, but I used to like the book and the framework a lot. It hit me at the right moment when I read that book.
There's nothing wrong with the book. Believe me, I enjoyed the book. Thought it was very, very well done and some great lessons. It's just that what he did, whether and you know what, I'll also throw out there my caveat. Maybe I misread it, but you know what? If I misread it, somebody else misread it. And I'm
maybe hit you on the wrong day or something.
Right.
No, but I want to be legit. One thing that I've learned here, or haven't reflected enough, and you guys helped me do that today, is on the importance of sometimes just doing the business the good old-fashioned ways. Okay, here are four guys using the top of tech to be talking to each other and being present hundreds and thousands of miles away, and still being able to interact and do all these things, which is great. That's a great thing about technology, but it won't replace meeting in person. Decisions are still a human thing, especially the type of decisions that I know the guys you deal with and the guys we deal with need to make. So the importance of just being real, being in person, and valuing those things, even though we use technology as a tool, but it's still a tool.
Awesome. All right. How do folks find you, learn more about what y'all got going on with TD Pine?
Brandon, you have a better accent than I do.
So our website is tdpineadvisors.com. We have some very helpful assessments for business owners, and those assessments start to help the business owner think about what their goals are, and I highly encourage anybody that hasn't gotten into the mindset yet about 100% of business owners are going to exit their business someday, right? And so you should be thinking about what your future looks like and what your business's future looks like without you. And so taking those assessments is a great way. And then we're very involved on LinkedIn. We're just two normal guys, and so reach out to us on LinkedIn. We'd love to talk to people about business and helping them.
Awesome. Brandon, Rafael, man, a lot of fun talking with y'all today, and I look forward to further conversations in the future.
Amazing.
Sounds great. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank y'all for watching today's episode of 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. And a special thanks to our guests, Brandon Moon and Rafael Pinho, for joining us today. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can always find a full archive of episodes at www.10xyourteam.net. And make sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, thanks, and we'll see you next time. That's not quite right, but I got it to close it. That's okay. Hey, we're okay. Thank y'all. We'll see you next time.